And then conversely, just a few weeks ago, Rocky was there stealing money as usual. For the
You're
for the
on to me,
match in
Chris.
Osaka when I was working with Naito, okay, what's the main event? Okada and Omega. All right. There's no way I'm going to compete with that style of a match. They're going 70 minutes. They've got the storyline. They've got all of this history together. Okay, what can I do to stand out? And once again, well, Jericho's match isn't going to mean anything because it's Omega and Okada. Well, it does. What if I just go out there and do a fucking Bruiser Brody brawl,
Yes.
and we just beat the shit out of each other and go super stiff, not dangerous, but super stiff, and put some false finishes at the end. But I want to see blood, and I'm going to see blood with no razor.
Right.
And that's another tip that I learned working from Vince. What's the variety of the matches on the card? If you have 10 matches that are all the same, they're not going to compete with an Omega Okada. But what if this one's different and it's more violent? And that's the story that I tell. It's a shorter story, but it's a different, intense story, and it worked once again. I would never have been able to have that match if I hadn't worked for Vince for 19 years or whatever it's been.
I was just wondering, like, I was going to ask you about that match with Naito, and because I really liked how you started it off hot like that. You know, it was a brilliant way to start that. Considering where you were placed on the card and what was before you and after, like you were just saying actually. And was there any difficulties in doing that match with Naito based on communication problems?
No, what happened was we went to the dojo the day before.
Yeah.
And I had some ideas kind of panned out, but once again, I was thinking more along the lines of, like you just said, it's not the moves. What's the story that I want to tell?
Yeah.
And here's what I always go with. If I ever do a promo or match, what's the vibe of this promo? What's the vibe of this match? What's the mood that I want to set? Because once I circled in on that, then the rest came together quite quickly. And what I wanted something that's a little uncomfortable, a little bit stiff, because Naito's style is tranquilo is his catchphrase. He's very laid back.
Yes.
And, he does a lot of I don't give a shit. I wanted a different Naito. I wanted a Naito that did give a shit and wanted to fight. And here's something else too: is that Gato. A lot of people go, "Well, Gato just puts the matches together." There's not a lot of genius there, but I've known Gato for 25 years.
Uh-huh.
There is some genius there, and that whole start of the match was his idea. Attack him before the bell.
Yeah.
Attack him before he takes his suit off. Put him through a table. I didn't think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I said, well, fuck, this is great. We could do 5 minutes before the bell even rings, which makes my match shorter, which is what I want, but it also sets the tone of being this super intense brawl. And the only thing I said to him is, I said, Gato, please, no other jump starts in the aisle and no other ball shots.
Oh, good.
Because what I noticed when I was in New Japan before is no one was keeping track of that. And you'd see, a random ball shot or Lance Hoyt and Davey Boy Smith just going out there and fighting in the crowd and fighting on the floor for no reason.
Yes.
So I said, no one else is allowed to do it because that'll make this mean so much more. And once again, little tricks that you use when you work in the WWE, they keep track of those things. Because if the finish of the main event is a ball shot or the semi-main event or co-main event or whatever we were, then if you see someone do a random ball shot in the first match that no one sells and it just continues the match, it doesn't have the same effect and the same impact. So we kept an eye on that sort of thing, and that's another reason why the match worked out as well as it did.
And the way you did the ball shot deal into the finish was great. I mean, it was really, really clever, man. Really clever.
Well, I mean, once again, if I have any type of legacy, it's that I'm pretty good at working my way out of people's finishes and familiar moves and changing it to things that you've never seen before. I think that's one thing I've always been really good at is how to kind of weave and bob out of people's finishes and signature moves to where you never know that it's coming. And I just wanted to do something. I remember one time I worked with Rock in 2002. I think it was the Royal Rumble. I was the champion.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to heel the victory. And Vince was like, well, maybe use the turnbuckle pad off or use a ball shot or put your feet on the ropes. And I was like, what if I do all three?
Yeah.
You know, what if I
Yeah.
hit his head in the post, and he comes back and I ball shot him and then roll him up and put my feet on the ropes. It's like that's kind of what I wanted to do with Naito, but Gato said you don't have to do everything else, just that one ball shot. Because my original idea was ball shot, roll him up, old school flair, and Gato's like, no, use your code breaker. It should be something hard like that. So it really worked out cool because once again, you don't see a lot of that in Japan.
Yeah.
And I still always believe that a heel should heel his way over, no matter what it is. I don't care where you are, or if you're winning as a heel, there should be some sort of heelish maneuver, even if it's just something like, a head fake to the ref where he turns and flinches, or a poke in the eye, or whatever it may be. So I thought that was the right way to go, and it really, people were surprised by it in a good way. So once again,
well, here's the thing,
that really works.
Chris. Here's the thing about that match going into it. Like it was a match where, and from the way I was looking at it, neither guy could really afford to lose, and because I think that, and I was talking to Barry Bloom about this. Actually, I was like, hey, if Chris needs to win his next match over there, that's. He's doing favors and putting guys over and doing great, but he needs to win that match,
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. Like the first one that I did with Kenny, it was never meant to be anything more than a one-off.
Right.
It was just a great idea. I thought it was a very Mayweather-McGregor type of thing, a match that nobody ever thought was going to happen. It was a huge success. I mean, it made millions of dollars for New Japan as far as their subscription rates going up 30%, an extra 12,000 people in the Tokyo Dome over last year. And I realized, I'm really enjoying this. I like, it's one thing when you work for Vince. I love working for Vince, but it's Vince's company. As Pat will tell you, some days he likes chocolate, some days he likes vanilla, but it's his ice cream store. What are you going to do?
That's right.
So in New Japan, it's not Vince's ice cream store. It obviously there's rules that we have to follow, but it's pretty much wide open. And another thing that I love, and Rocky will tell you this, is they don't clue the cameraman in on anything.
Yeah.
The camera is all kayfabe. So you don't have to tell anybody what you're doing for your finish or anything, because they're not telling anybody anyways. Now, sometimes it leads to them
missing a shot,
if they blade or whatever it may be. But overall, you don't have to be so regimented, and no one really knows what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I don't have to have it second guessed. When you do a finish with Vince, you got to run it through the producers, and if there's anything that runs a red flag, they got to run it through Vince, or more likely, I got to go talk to Vince about it, and either he's going to say yes or no. But by the end of the day, you've gone over it so many times, and it's been changed and warped and moved, and Vince has added what he wants in there, that it's not completely 100% the artist. I find in Japan the artists get to be more of an artist, which I really found refreshing. I really love that. So